Hey there, friends, and welcome to episode 308 of Just the Zoo of Us. This week, I am joined by a writer and science journalist for a highlight reel of some of the animal kingdom's biggest surprises. We discuss Lego trebuchets, the sci-fi potential of a projectile-based language, endangered relationships, biofluorescence, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch's #1 fan, and so much more. Just the Zoo of Us presents Cara Giaimo's top 3 surprises from the animal kingdom. Hi there, everybody. It's Ellen Weatherford with Just the Zoo of Us, your favorite animal review podcast. I am so excited because this week we have a brand new friend to talk to about some fun and exciting surprises from the animal kingdom. We have Cara Giaimo. Say hi, Cara.
Hey, everybody.
Cara, what are your pronouns?
Oh, I use she, her pronouns.
Thank you so much. This week, you have come to us with some absolutely completely out of pocket surprises from the animal kingdom that have come up in your work reporting and writing on animals, which actually your writing was where I came across your work for the first time years ago. You wrote a fascinating article on giraffe social behavior that I remember quoting in one of these episodes years ago. So when I came across you in my email, I was like, oh my gosh, hey. So Cara, what got you into the work that you do writing about animals and the natural world?
Oh, that's awesome that you remember the giraffe article. That was also really surprising and fun to write. I've been really into animals since I was a kid. I grew up in sort of a rural area with a lot of forests, and I would spend a lot of time in the forest just after school and stuff, just seeing what I could see. And as I got older, I thought that I wanted to be a scientist and do biology research, and I kind of pictured myself traveling the world and studying different creatures. But as I got kind of farther into college, I had some opportunities to try out lab research and field research. And I really enjoyed it, but I also felt like I didn't have quite the right personality because I wanted to just know everything so quickly. And when you're doing research, it takes so long to answer a question, which is cool. It's a really cool thing about it. People are very careful and they put in the time and they're very patient, and then they learn something brand new, which I think can be really rewarding. But for me, I was I want to have known that yesterday, So I became drawn to science reporting and science writing instead. And I ended up going to graduate school for that. There are a few science writing graduate school programs in the US right now. I went to one at MIT.
Big pull.
And I really learned a ton about sort of how journalism works and how the media works. Since then, I've been writing. I write about other stuff too, but I love writing about animals and also, plants and fungi and microbes and anything alive I find really, really interesting. My job is super fun.
It does sound kind of like a dream job for people who like to just info dump, professional yappers, it feels like the kind of ideal circumstances for every kid who was the one walking around at the zoo, correcting people.
Yes, totally. And also just it's such a good excuse because I'm allowed to just call up anyone I want and ask them whatever I want. That's my job. And that's really fun.
I 100% abuse the ability to approach people I have no business approaching and being hey, I'm a, science communicator. Or, hey, I'm a podcaster. Can I ask you about this thing? But I feel a lot of times the people who are the researchers and the scientists, especially if they're studying really sort of niche or obscure topics, they're always so eager to share what they know and share what they've learned. I think people don't realize how excited scientists get to talk about the science that they do. You know what I mean?
Totally. I love talking to scientists for that reason and other reasons as well. But you're right. I think sort of the flip side of being the kind of person who can focus so hard and spend so much time on one thing, which I didn't find myself really able to do, is that when you get to talk about it, you're so passionate about it and you know everything. And it's really, really cool, to talk to people like that.
Right in front of me on my desk, I have a copy of Atlas Obscura Wildlife, which is a gorgeous, like a beautiful book. Could you talk to me a little bit about like what the process was like for like writing this love letter to the natural world?
Totally. So this was kind of like a dream project to get. Really, like my first full-time writing job out of grad school was with Atlas Obscura, and I worked for them for a few years, and I just got to write about all of the zaniest and like most surprising and most off-the-wall stuff. And then I decided that I wanted to focus a little bit harder on animal and plant writing, so I went freelance, and they contacted me and they said, we want to write like a nature book, but we want to do it with a sort of an Atlas Obscura twist. Like focusing on the wacky and wild and like unusual, and like, will you help us? And I felt like right away I was so excited because I felt like I just had this vision in my head of like the book that I would have wanted to read when I was a kid. So I tried to make that happen, and I had a ton of help. I worked with a lot of writers. I actually worked with writers from all 7 continents, which was really cool. I didn't mean to do that, but that's how it worked out. Somebody filed a story from Antarctica about Antarctica, which was really cool. Yeah. And I was so psyched when that happened. Yeah, people from all across the world. And I talked to a lot of different kinds of experts. So I talked to a ton of scientists, but then I talked to other people who are kind of like experts on these species for different reasons. So like maybe they like grew up interacting with them, or like they are working to protect them in like a different way than a scientist. Or like one of the most interesting ones is I end up interviewing somebody who her sort of like unofficial job in her neighborhood is she mediates conflicts between humans and crows. So I talked to her like about how she does that.
Now, I live in the Pacific Northwest, where I feel like every neighborhood would drastically benefit from like a crow liaison.
Totally.
I feel like Corvid Ambassador is like a crucial role in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, she's from there too. I think she lives in Oakland.
Oh, I knew it.
Yeah.
Our crows are built different. If you haven't like seen the crow scene in the Pacific Northwest, it is truly like they're built different.
That's awesome. It made me really curious, but also like a little scared to talk to her about it.
Like, what do you know? You're pulling stories from like all over the world and from, sources with just fascinating sort of insights and experiences. And along the way, you have picked up some surprises, some things that I think even people who are like really well steeped in like animal knowledge would still be surprised to find out. So you have some wild pieces of animal lore to share with us today. What would your number 3 favorite like animal surprise be?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, you're totally right. I am constantly fascinated by the natural world, and I find it really surprising on like one level. But then there's also another level where I'm sort of like, at this point, I've seen it all. And then like every single day something happens where I'm like, oh, I guess I haven't seen it all. But these 3 that I picked really have blown my mind and like continue to blow my mind even, as I rack up trivia about like all the species that I can. So I think for my number 3 pick, if we're going to be counting down, I'm going to go with the gloomy octopus.
Tell me about this fellow, because gloomy octopus feels just like the most whimsical, adorable little name. It feels like a name that someone would pick as like their gamer tag or like a streamer name or something. Gloomy octopus is great. Introduce me to this charming fellow.
Yeah, so the gloomy octopus, for one thing, they're really cute. They're sort of like, if you imagine an octopus, you're probably sort of imagining this guy.
Yeah, that's like 90% of the job. They're quite cute. I did run a quick Google search. This thing's pretty cute.
Yeah. So they're just sort of like, they've got that classic octopus vibe where they can like change color, but they're usually sort of staying in the like dull orange, gray family. They have, of course, their 8 arms and their siphons and their funny little eyes that are always looking like a little bit skeptical.
The side eye, the bombastic side eye.
Yes, exactly. A slight gloomy air. I don't actually know why they got the name gloomy octopus. That's something I would love to research at some point.
Hi, it's me editing this episode. I actually ended up finding something on this in an article from James Cook University's website. JCU Associate Professor and evolutionary biologist Jan Strugnell says its real name is the common Sydney octopus, or officially Octopus tetrachus, but it's known as the gloomy octopus because to human eyes, it looks like it has a rather downcast expression. I believe her. But to be honest, I really don't see it in pictures. Maybe it's an in-person thing. I don't know. Anyway, back to the episode.
I have been really interested in these guys since I learned about their special situation off the coast of Australia, where unlike most octopuses, which we don't know like too much about octopuses, but their lives are very mysterious to us, but we do know that most of them prefer to live on their own. But these octopuses, thanks to kind of like circumstance, which we can get into later, they have formed at least 2 octopus cities off the coast of Australia where a bunch of them will live together.
Oh, at least 2 is interesting because I would have to wonder if this happened twice, like, you know, one group of gloomy octopuses makes a city and then another one in a different place just happens to convergently also make a city, or if there was one city and then you get this sort of like break off faction of like, we don't like how you're running our city, we're gonna go, like, you know, like I wonder if there's like Octopus City and then like new Octopus City.
Yeah.
Was there a schism?
It's such a good question. I think like, so the theory about how it arose is basically like these octopuses, they like to eat shellfish. And then they also kind of like to burrow themselves down into the discarded shells. So they'll be like eating and eating and eating. And the thought was kind of like, okay, there's like a seabed where a bunch of shellfish aggregate. And so then octopuses come and they're eating the shellfish and they're throwing them around like the discarded shells. And then they're like, wow, what an amazing pile of shells for me to like turn into a little house. But because there's so many shellfish, a bunch of different octopuses have the same thought. And they're like, I'm going to live here. And then their neighbor is like, actually, I'm going to live right here. And then they're kind of like, hang on a minute. I didn't ask for this. I just wanted a nice little house.
The shell house for me, none for thee.
Exactly. And so they're in this funny situation. And there are some researchers who found these sites and are like, this is such a cool, fun, exciting way to see how octopuses interact, which is not something that we normally get to see. So they've named the 2 sites Octopolis and then Octlantis.
Okay, both bangers. Okay. Sometimes I feel like scientists especially can kind of name things a little too dryly, and I'm like, have more fun with it. But no, they nailed it. They got it in one this time.
It's really good. And so like these cities, like they kind of wax and wane. Like when there was the most research activity at them, there were maybe like a couple dozen octopuses per city, and then the researchers will go back and not see that many. But then maybe they've just moved on to a different spot with more shellfish and they've made a 3rd city we don't even know about yet. But in any case, yeah, it's super interesting and it has allowed us to see these octopuses do some funky stuff.
I am just so tickled by the idea that these octopuses who do not want to live near each other. They're not interested. They're not social. They're like, I don't really want to live, but they just keep doing it anyway. And they're all too stubborn to move somewhere else.
Yes.
It reminds me of like, if you have like multiple cats and the cats don't really like care about each other, but they just keep like both wanting the same comfy spot on the couch. So they end up like like cuddling, like they're like laying next to each other because they're like, well, I want the spot and I'm not going to let you keep me from enjoying my comfy spot. So all of the octopuses are like, you know what? I don't want a neighbor, but I do want this nice little spot, so I'm going to settle right in right here. Also, the idea of like using the shells as building material or as sort of like, you know, a substrate for housing. Really, as someone from Florida, I totally I have seen so many houses, lived in houses where like the exterior was made of that sort of like, it's not coquina, although coquina is a separate thing, right? Like the use of shells as like a sort of building material. But like there are a lot of like coastal houses that have that sort of like, I don't even know what it is. It's like a plaster, but mixed with like seashells in it, or like the exterior of the house will have that kind of look. I forgot the word for this during recording, but I found it later. It's a building material called a tabby, a type of concrete made with crushed oyster shells, as opposed to coquina, which is a naturally occurring rock made of seashell and coral fragments. Sorry if this was only interesting to me, but it was going to keep me up all night if I didn't remember what it was called. And I'm like, yeah, we also do that.
Totally. It's funny because like one reason that I told the story the way that I did is that when these researchers' papers got covered, as you could expect, a lot of popular accounts were like, these octopuses built a city, like they're architects, they're like engineering. And then the authors like published a paper being like, we're mad that you're saying this. Like they don't want to live in a city. It's a total accident, which I think is actually like even better, you know, like you said. And I've actually talked to researchers who compare octopuses to cats. So I think it's like a really good comparison of sort of like, this is just the situation we ended up in. Let's make it work, rather than like, this was our plan.
Not the begrudging NIMBY octopuses.
Exactly.
You mentioned that there are some interesting and surprising social dynamics between the octopuses. What are they doing down there?
Yeah, so I think the funniest one, and the one that, I mean, can we introduce my other book?
Please.
In addition to the Atlas Obscura book, the Gloomy Octopus is not in the Atlas Obscura book, but it is in my new book, which is called Leaving the Ocean Was a Mistake, Life Lessons from 60 Sea Creatures. And this book also kind of like collects really wild animal facts, but it's all about ocean animals. And the idea behind this book is that the animals of the sea have come together and decided to give all of us hapless landlubbers advice about life that's based on their own lives under the sea. So in addition to having like fun facts about all these critters, they're giving you advice.
They're saying, you see what you could have had.
Yes, exactly. If you just stuck around here with us, everything could be yours. But the Gloomy Octopus, it gave me the advice. Never be afraid to set and enforce your boundaries. And obviously this comes into play in group living situations, as anyone who maybe has like siblings or roommates will know. Sometimes when you're living in close quarters, you need to have boundaries in order to keep your peace of mind. And the Gloomy Octopus sets and enforces these boundaries in kind of a funny way. Like we said, they like to live on their own, and in these cities they cannot. So when their neighbors get too close to them, they throw stuff at them.
I don't think I want my particular kids to be taking this advice, because they don't need to hear this. They were already doing this.
So they're already on the Gloomy Octopus's level.
Yes, they were already launching projectiles at each other.
Well, kids, listen up, because here's some more tips on how to do that, like an octopus.
Here's how to do it more destructively.
Yeah. So the octopuses will scoop up like shells or dirt or algae, and sometimes they'll kind of like toss it with their arms, but more likely they'll kind of like toss it in the air like a tennis ball. And then instead of hitting it with a racket, they'll hit it with their cool like water jet that they can make with their siphon.
Whoa, that's wild. Because I was thinking about how if you've ever tried to like move your arm quickly underwater, it's hard to get a lot of momentum, and it's really hard to like hit things with force underwater. It's like punching in a dream or something like that. Like you just can't really connect with a lot of force. And then even like if you've tried to throw something underwater, you can get some speed going with your hand, but as soon as it leaves your hand, it's just gonna kind of like
it like flops down,
just slowly, sadly fall to the bottom.
Totally.
So I was wondering, like, how could they possibly get that much like momentum going, but then using the siphon to like do a blast of water? That makes so much more sense.
And I think like it's not necessarily like super effective. Like I don't know that they're hitting their targets, but it's sort of just a way to be like, hey, get back. Like you can imagine if you're carrying like all your toys back to your room and like your brother is kind of like hanging out, you could just kind of like
launch them,
drop them. And then your brother might be like, okay.
What I'm hearing is kids build a trebuchet and load it up with Legos.
I mean, you know, we can always improve on the octopus's methods.
This also doesn't seem super, I don't know, octopuses being quite physically expressive in their boundaries. It doesn't sound totally unprecedented, because I remember learning about the reef octopuses, the day octopuses, which when they would like hunt together with something like a grouper, if the grouper was like overstepping and like getting too close or taking too much food, then the octopus would just kind of punch them in the face. So
I remember that too.
So I feel like this is just kind of their MO. Like they're just way cooler with throwing hands.
Yes.
I mean, and they got 8 of them.
Exactly.
You can catch all 8 of these hands.
Because like it kind of makes sense. Like they're underwater. I'd love to look into this more, but I don't know that there are a lot of reports of them like making a lot of sounds. Like obviously with people we're like, use your words. Octopuses maybe don't have that possibility. So they just go straight to the nuclear option of throwing stuff or punching.
In science fiction, anytime I've read science fiction about like a type of species that's like trying to communicate that maybe doesn't use speech, right? Or that doesn't use sound to communicate. And I feel like I'm failing to remember what it is, but I feel like I've read some sort of science fiction that was either octopus inspired or like octopus based, where like octopuses would communicate to each other using like visual cues by like changing the colors and patterns on their body in a way that like had the same effect as language. That's cool. So I would be interested if over time, like octopuses that do live in close quarters to each other like this, and maybe like if this is a recent thing or if this is something they haven't been doing for like, you know, long enough to have adapted to it, I would wonder if like over time they would develop something like language, like something that they could use to communicate with each other, like, hey, you're getting too close, or like, hey, this is my spot, or like, I wonder if over time they would start to develop that.
I think they have, and it's throwing stuff. But I also hear what you're saying.
Maybe if you throw different things, it means something else. Like I threw a bunch of sand, and like if you throw sand, that means one thing. But if you throw like shells and pebbles, that means something else. Like you could have a real projectile-based language.
That could be really cool. I like that. I think that would be a really good basis for like a sci-fi story or something like that.
Hey there, we are going to take a quick break to hear from a couple of the other shows on the Maximum Fun Network. When we get back, we are going to hear Cara's top 2 animal surprises, so stay with us.
Hi, I'm Amber Nash, the voice of Pam Poovey on the groundbreaking FX animated comedy Archer. Remember Archer? I sure don't. That's why I started Rephrasing, an Archer rewatch podcast on MaximumFun.org. Join me and a bevy of special guests as we discuss every episode of Archer starting from the very beginning. Archer executive producer Casey Willis and editor Christian Danley will provide insight and fun and help me remember everything I've forgotten about Archer, which is a lot. So join me on Rephrasing, an Archer rewatch podcast on MaximumFun.org, because I can't wait to watch Archer again for the very first time.
The wizards answer 8 by 8. The conclaves call to demonstrate their arcane gift, their single spell. They number 64 until a conflagration. 63 and 62 they soon shall be, as one by one the wizards die, till one remains to reign on high.
Join us for Taz Royale, an Oops All Wizards Battle Royale season of the Adventure Zone, every other Thursday on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
What is your number 2 surprise from the animal kingdom?
So my number 2 surprise, we're gonna move kingdoms, but this is also kind of like a communication-based surprise. I want to talk to you about honey guide birds.
I had never ever heard of these until maybe like a few months ago. Can you introduce us?
Totally. Also, for the record, I think I just said change kingdoms, but we wouldn't be changing kingdoms. We would be changing maybe like classes or something like that.
That would be wild. Can you imagine if you were like, this one's about funguses?
Yeah, that wouldn't belong on this podcast at all.
I mean, I would give them a pass.
That's very kind. Okay, yeah, so honey guides are super cool. They're these little sort of nondescript looking birds. They're usually kind of brown and gray and white. But for many, many years, like maybe even millions of years, they have had and continued to have this relationship with people. So they live across sub-Saharan Africa, and they have worked with people all across the continent to, or that part of the continent, to find honey. They basically like lead people to honey, and then the people are able to get the honey. So the honey guides find the honey and the people get it. And it really differs in different like human cultures, how they relate to the birds and exactly how this communication works. But basically like a honey hunter will go into the woods looking for honey and often will have like a way to kind of call out to a honey guide. for the Atlas Obscura book, I spoke to a guy named Sylvester who like is a honey hunter and does this. He lives in Eswatini, and he has like a special whistle that he makes that makes a special sound that calls this bird, and he learned how to do it like from people in his village. So he makes this call, and then a honey guide will kind of appear. Like it won't come close or like land on him or anything, but it will sort of like fly across in the distance if there's one around. And then over the course of however long, the honey guide will fly from tree to tree, and Sylvester or somebody else will follow the honey guide, and then eventually it becomes clear, like, okay, here's a tree stump that's filled with honeycomb and honey, or like here is a bee's nest up in a tree. And then at that point, the bird usually kind of like goes some distance away and the person gets the honey. And again, different cultures have different sort of etiquette around whether and how to like say thank you to the bird or like give it its reward for sharing this information. So that's also really cool.
You got to tip your guy.
Yes.
100% you got to tip him.
People disagree. Sometimes, yes, you have to. And then sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes people say if you don't keep the honey guide hungry, it won't help you again because it won't have any incentive. Different thoughts about that. Sylvester does reward his birds.
This is the most Dungeons and Dragons behavior that I've ever heard. Like, this is, it's just like you summon a small bird and then you like cast speak with animals and then it leads you to treasure. Like,
It's very cool.
is like someone's side quest.
Yes. So Sylvester said specifically, like, one, they don't give honey to the birds because it's not good for them, but the birds like to eat the wax, which is kind of cool. So the people take the honey and the birds take the wax, like in his culture. And then also sometimes a bird will lead him to like 4 or 5 nests in a row. And so if it looks like the bird is going to like take you to a different nest, then you don't feed the bird because you want the bird to like take you from spot to spot before getting its reward.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I'll pay at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, upon completion.
Exactly. It's like an Uber that has like a bunch of stops or whatever.
I have to wonder, okay, so it's because it sounds like the honey guide is sort of relying on people or like a second party to like get its food for it, which is really interesting. Like, I would have to wonder like if they developed their taste for beeswax because they had access to like another animal that would get it for them. Like, I have to wonder how they even evolutionarily, I guess, figured out they could do that in the first place.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Like, I think you'd consider this relationship between the people and the honey guides like a mutualism where both parties benefit from the relationship. And then they have this other mutualism with a wax digesting bacteria that lives in their stomachs that allows them to digest the beeswax. So that has also probably developed over time. And it's a great question. There are like a small number of researchers who are like looking into this really closely. There's actually a new paper out about this that I'm excited to read. I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet. But they think that this relationship goes back, possibly millions of years and actually possibly like predates humans as a species. Whoa. Like maybe even took place with our ancestors before we were officially people. So it's pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. See, that is so interesting to me because I know this is not fully domestication, right? But this is like something along the same lines, but like going off of this idea that like they've been doing this for millions of years, like predating our modern species, that like long predates things like dogs and cats and like animals that we've sort of fully domesticated. But the honey guide like retains its wildness.
Yeah.
Like it can work alongside us and like work with us and collaborate with us without becoming domesticated, which is really interesting to me.
It's really cool and really, like you said, really rare. I actually only know of like one other example, which is people and dolphins hunting together in Brazil. I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone who actually does that, but I know that it does still happen. And it's kind of interesting, like Sylvester was telling me basically like this tradition that we have and this relationship is under threat because in his village, like people just like do other things and they don't always have time. He said that there used to be a lot of honey hunters where he lives, and now there's only 5 of them who go out regularly. And then he also like has a job. He's in school. Like it's not the only thing he does, but he likes doing it, so he keeps doing it. And then also like due partly to conservation and other like, you know, good ideas, some of the land where this used to happen, like people like Sylvester aren't allowed to go on it anymore because it's protected land. Oh. So like in order to find honey, you have to really like traverse the forest. And he ends up feeling like he can't go to the places that the people in his village used to go. So it's kind of interesting to think about, like, the honey guide is not an endangered species, but this relationship is endangered. So, like, is it maybe, like, worth thinking about how to protect it, even if that interferes with other ways that we tend to try to protect natural things?
Right. Yeah, because they rely on their sort of like relationship with us. Oh, that is really interesting. I just remembered the reason that my friend Lee was talking to me about honey guides is because of a study that came out in April. And stop me if you've heard this one before, but I just found the title of the paper. The title of the paper is "To Bees or Not to Bees? Greater honey guides sometimes guide humans to animals other than bees, but likely not as punishment." Have you heard this?
No, that's amazing. That's so good.
So the gist of it, my understanding is that there's this sort of, people believe in general, I guess, that if you mistreat or slight your honey guide, if you treat them unfairly, then in the future, next time that honey guide is guiding you, it will guide you not to a hive full of bees and honey, but instead to a venomous snake.
I have heard that before, yeah. So it's cool that they actually investigated that.
They did. So it seems like the results showed that the honey guides were not guiding correctly, but it didn't necessarily seem like it was related to like a perceived slight.
Good to know.
It seemed like they're just wrong sometimes.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Or like, can you imagine that? Your friend is like, bro, like, come with me. I found this amazing restaurant. Like, it's just around the corner.
I know a spot, dude. I know a spot.
Yeah, like, come, I promise, like, just come, it's just a little farther. And then you get there and it's like a snake. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so sorry, bro. Like, I must have just mixed it up. I'll take you there like next week or whatever.
Dude, I swear last week, it was like the best tacos I've ever had.
Exactly.
I'm just a big fan of the title, "To Bees or Not to Bees."
Very good. Like you said, it's so fun when scientists have a sense of humor. I feel a little bit bad, actually, to throw back to before, for the Octopolis and Octalantis scientists, because they like came up with these funny names, and then they had to publish a whole paper being like, guys, they're not really cities. We didn't mean to like make you think they were.
This is why we can't have nice things. This is why we don't get to have fun, because you guys can't act right.
Yeah, right.
When you're doing science communication, and especially for you as a science journalist, is that ever a struggle for you? I know earlier you mentioned that like you have this drive to always like have the answers and know, you know, what the solution is or know what the answer is. And so often, especially in nature and ecology and biology, it's not as straightforward as like, this is the answer. The vast majority of the time, you're going to have to say things like, this might be it, or it could be this. Like, is that a struggle for you when you're writing about things and you have to like use that sort of vague and nebulous language?
I actually kind of like it, because sometimes that sort of is the answer, you know, and to say that something is settled or definite is like actually not the answer. And I find it also kind of comforting to have space to say, this is what some people think and this is what other people think, because it's like much more honest about how all these processes work. So I think like I do like to have like a fun fact and a tidbit, but then I also do appreciate the fact that science journalism as a practice usually leaves room for dissent and arguing, because that is like how we figure stuff out.
Right. I do also feel like for me, it gives me some plausible deniability, right? Yeah. Like it's
it's helpful.
I feel like it gives me room to be like later, if that turns out not to be the case, I can be like, oh, well, I did say it could be. 100%. That also means it could not.
It comes up sometimes when people who, like, for a while I was writing a lot about fluorescent mammals.
Love it.
We probably don't have time to get into it like a lot, but
honorable mention to fluorescent mammals.
There's a big spread about them in the Atlas Obscura book. I think it's in the grassland section if you happen to turn to it. It's fun because it's like a black background with neon colors instead of the rest of the book is like white with colors. So like when you flip, you'll find it. But yeah, I was writing about them a lot, and it was controversial because nobody really knows like why this happens or how widespread it is. Like we have bioluminescence under the ocean where it kind of makes sense because of the color and light environment that ocean animals have. And then we have some fungi and stuff that can produce light. But when it happens in animals, especially mammals, it's like really unclear sort of like why it happens or what it might look like to the animals or to other animals. And it's not really possible for humans to see with the naked eye because fluorescence is different from bioluminescence or like being glow in the dark. Like a firefly, when it lights up, is like creating a chemical reaction that creates light. A fluorescent platypus, for example, is not creating energy. It's just if its fur gets like excited by an existing high energy light, then it will like throw off a special color that you could see like under that light, like a UV light.
I feel like the really exciting thing about like things like the biofluorescence, it feels like you discover this thing where you're like, wow, this really fascinating and beautiful, like visually, aesthetically beautiful phenomenon was here the whole time. We just like don't have the physical equipment to observe it. And it was only revealed to us by our advances in technology and science. I feel like that stuff is so fascinating because it's like there's a whole world of like adaptations and traits out there that we just don't have the equipment to see because it's not for us.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing with the fluorescence is like, because it looks so cool when you photograph it right, but it probably doesn't look like that in any natural setting. Like when I write about it, I always hear from scientists who are like, this is misleading. Like you're making this too exciting. Like we don't know if it has any utility. We don't know like there's so much we don't know, like, why are you covering this?
Yeah, but also, like, it doesn't have to have utility to be interesting. It's cool.
Yeah, so I always try to write about it, like, in a way that's not misleading. Like, if you read the spread in the Atlas Obscura book, there's so much, like, but we don't know, or, like, we're not sure yet, or, you know, investigation continues. Right. But still, even just, like, publishing the pictures in some place like the New York Times, like, people are like, this is like making a lot of hoopla about something that is too confusing, but I don't think that's right. I think it's still worth talking about as long as you are honest about what we know and what we don't know at this point.
Let people have fun. I feel like is my, like, let people like things. You know what I mean? Like, if people think it's cool, then people think it's cool. I don't know. I feel like people like to be like, I don't see why everyone thinks it's cool. It's like, okay, well, I do. So how about you let me have fun and let me look at my cool glowing platypuses? Because like so many times in research for things and like learning about, especially in animals and, you know, the natural world, a lot of times things just happen. Like animals just like develop traits. And it's not like for anything. It's just because it happened by accident and it didn't kill them.
Yes.
And it didn't prevent them from reproducing. So just for whatever reason, it just stuck. And they're like, it's fine. We just kept it. We don't need it for anything. We just have it. And it's, you know, we have no reason to get rid of it. So I think that's fine. Like maybe it's not like the most interesting answer, but also I think there's like beauty in this is a thing that's just there because that's just how evolution happened. It's just like an artifact of evolution.
Yeah, I think it's cool too. And I was reading an essay the other day by Stephen Jay Gould, who's one of my favorite biology writers. And he was talking about this exact thing and how it's kind of a misconception that is pretty common, that like every single thing that exists biologically is there for a reason or serves some purpose still. And he was talking about also how like some of these weird things that don't seem to have a purpose can still like really be revealing about an animal's history or like what the world was like a long time ago. And he gave the example of kiwis, which I didn't know this, but kiwi birds have by far the largest egg to body size of any bird. Like way out of proportion.
If you've ever seen like an x-ray or something, like a scan of a kiwi with an egg inside, it's like the body is like 95% egg. It's like the bird is just like barely built around the egg.
Yes. It's a great essay, and it presents this theory about the history of the kiwi that I don't know if it turned out to be correct. I think maybe it actually was not correct, the theory, but it was like he takes you through this logic and reasoning of like kiwi lays a giant egg and therefore like we can hypothesize this thing, which like doesn't necessarily have anything to do with utility, but may have to do with their history.
Just wanted to fill in some details here. The essay in question is titled Of Kiwi Eggs and the Liberty Bell from Stephen Jay Gould's 1991 collection of essays titled Bully for Brontosaurus, Reflections in Natural History. In this essay, he's arguing that kiwis have such large eggs, not because having large eggs benefits them in some way, but because large eggs are a holdover from what he believes to be much larger ancestors of the kiwi. So he writes, in this interpretation, if you ask me why kiwi eggs are so large, I reply because kiwis are dwarfed descendants of larger birds and just followed ordinary principles of scaling in their evolution. This answer differs sharply from the conventional form of evolutionary explanation because these big eggs are good for something now and natural selection favored them. My answer will also strike many people as deeply unsatisfactory. It provides a reason rooted in history, pure and simple, with a bit of scaling theory thrown in. Kiwis are as they are because their ancestors were as they were. So like Cara mentioned, this explanation was pretty widely accepted until fossil evidence of a kiwi ancestor was analyzed in 2013, showing that actually their ancestors were a lot smaller than modern kiwis, not bigger, which kind of throws cold water on Gould's hypothesis. But the thought process is still a valuable one. I see the vision. Plus, we hear all the time about like obscure random things about animals that don't seem to be super pertinent, I guess. And then later they end up being crucial in like, you know, things like Gila monster venom being used to develop like diabetes medication and stuff. Sometimes things that like don't immediately seem like a huge deal, they can have surprising uses later.
Yeah, and I think like, I don't know that I've ever sort of put this in words before, but I think something that I really love about life on Earth is that it can be really random and strange, and not everything like neatly fits into any schematic that we might put on it. And I think that's really exciting and surprising.
Yeah, that's where the flavor is. That's the seasoning of life.
Yeah. Exactly.
Cara, what is your number one surprise from the animal kingdom?
Yeah, so the last animal I want to talk about, I love it so much that I put it in both my books. It's called the sea skater, and this animal completely blew my mind when I learned about it. I love insects. I think they're really cool and underappreciated, and these insects are the only ones that live on the open ocean. So if you think about what it's like in the open ocean, you can kind of imagine it as a hard life for a bug.
If you thought you were safe, if you thought you could make it to international waters and the bugs couldn't get you anymore, wrong.
Yeah, they're there. They're about the size of a peppercorn. They look like, you know, like a water boatman or something from a freshwater pond, but they are adapted to live, like you said, on the open seas in international waters. And they have all these really cool adaptations. They are like water repellent because of all these nano hairs that they are grooming constantly.
Whoa.
They are buoyant. They can like skip across the surface of the water. And they can like, if they get dunked, they can breathe because their hairs trap air bubbles. So they can kind of just like stay down there for a bit and then come back up. And they don't get heat or UV damaged.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Anyone who's ever spent a lot of time out on open water, like on a boat or something, you don't think about it, I think, before you get on the boat. But once you're on the boat, you realize that you're like, oh, the sun is not playing around.
Yeah, totally. It's like reflecting and it's always there, but they don't seem to suffer.
The worst sunburns I've ever gotten in my entire life, I got on a boat.
Wow. Yeah, I believe it. These guys, no sunburns. They're fine. They don't need aloe. They're just hanging out.
You know what this is, the hairs and stuff on the sea skater are reminding me of a little bit the diving bell spider.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I'm so happy that I get to tell you about the diving spider. This is a delightful fellow who is a spider that like traps air bubbles and carries them down underwater. Now, this is not in salt water. I don't know how, I don't think they would be able to make this work in salt water, but they like carry water bubbles down below water and like make a nest out of bringing air down and making this bigger and bigger bubble so that then they can go inside the bubble and have air to breathe while they hunt like invertebrates and stuff inside the water.
That's so
they have a little like Sandy's bubble from like SpongeBob.
That's amazing. All right, you have surprised me on the Surprising Animals episode.
We're trading surprises. There's a surprise for everybody. There's something for everyone here.
Totally. Yeah, these sea skaters, they're just really cool and they're really understudied. Like I talked to this woman, Lana Cheng, Dr. Cheng from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, which is in San Diego. And she's like really one of the only people who really like knows anything about them. And she had to like create a special net in order to catch them. And then once she started studying them, all these scientists were like, oh, thank goodness you're studying these bugs. We have tons of them. They like come up in our nets. We don't know what to do with them. Like, will you look at our sea skaters? She was like, okay. She and I think one other scientist figured out finally how to keep them in captivity, because when she would put them in tanks, they don't like understand walls at all because they live on the open ocean and they don't have any walls. Right. So they would just like not get it that they couldn't like just keep going, and they would just like smack into the side constantly.
Poor babies.
I know.
But like also like why would they have ever they've never lived in an environment where there's anything in their way.
Yeah. No, they don't get it. They have no limits.
What a life when there's literally no obstacles.
It's really wild to think about because there's no obstacles, but also like probably everything is trying to eat you. And also like how do you find your friends? It's a really interesting situation to be in.
That's true. It's a tough life out there in the open ocean. And that's like, it's tough out there even for things that can fully live in the water. It would make me wonder why, like what selective pressure there could have been to cause them to adapt to an environment where, like you mentioned, like, yeah, it doesn't seem like that's where bugs go because it seems like a very anti-bug environment. It seems bug hostile.
It does. But they've like developed all these skills. Like they're really good at spotting shadows from above or below. So like this researcher was like, I keep trying to photograph them in their natural habitat, but if they see me at all or my shadow, they just like leave because they're like, that's trying to eat me. She thinks that they probably attract each other by secreting pheromones, but she's not sure. And then the last surprising thing I'll share about the sea skater is that they love the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
They have to be, that fan club has one member and it's sea skaters.
They're like, thank goodness, like landmarks, places for us to lay eggs. Like we love it here. So there are lots of them there.
For me?
Yeah.
You made this for me?
Exactly. So they love it. There's tons of them there. There are like milk cartons floating in the water that have like thousands of eggs on them from sea skaters. It's in my book. It says, this is not from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, but same idea. A milk jug pulled up off the coast of Costa Rica had 70,000 sea skater eggs on it.
My God.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only time ever in my life I've heard of like an animal being benefited from like ocean pollution. They're like, actually, I'm like a rare pro-pollution animal. Yeah. I kind of love learning about animals like that, even though I'm not rooting for pollution personally. It's kind of nice to know that it's welcomed by some little critters. I do feel like for people who are a little bit less bug friendly and are maybe not on Team Bug, maybe are more anti-bug, this could be a good way to get people to care about like ocean pollution and like reduce, reuse, recycle and stuff, because it'd be like, hey, the more you pollute and the more we pollute the ocean, the more 70,000 egg milk jugs that are floating around. If you enjoy your little boat trips, if you enjoy going out on the ocean and having a bug-free experience, then, think about that.
That is so funny. This would be like a very complicated, very funny PSA style campaign.
You could write it like it's a piece that's like, actually, environmental concerns about ocean pollution are so overblown. Like, the ocean is fine. Don't worry about it. Like, throw your trash in the ocean. It's all fine. Don't listen to the environmentalists. And then right at the end, it would be like, this message has been brought to you by the Sea Skater Association.
That's so funny. That's a great idea.
Cara, for people who had fun being surprised and shocked by the animal kingdom and who want to learn more from you, where can people find your books, both Atlas Obscura and Leaving the Ocean Was a Mistake?
You can find them pretty much wherever. Bookstores, online bookstores. You can see if your library has them. Yeah, they're around. And if you do find them, I hope you enjoy them.
And where can people find more of your work? Are you like on social media, or where can people go next?
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky. I'm still kind of getting used to using it. I used to use Twitter all the time, but I don't anymore. But you can find me on Blue Sky just by searching my name. I do have a newsletter that I occasionally write called What's New in Animals and Plants. Haven't had a lot of time to do it, but thinking of starting it up again soon. So you can always subscribe to that. It's on Substack. And I also will soon have a website. That's on my list. So you can find my future website in the future. I think by the time you put this up, I will have a website, caragiaimo.com.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'll have links to everything in the episode description, so anybody listening can scroll down. We got holidays coming up, so if you've got animal nerds in your life, I'm just saying, these make really good gifts. I would be delighted to receive either of these books as a gift, so a great thing to keep in mind as we start to approach the gift exchanging season. Cara, this has been a delight. I've had so much fun learning from you today. Thank you so much for your time and for your knowledge and your energy and your passion. And I am so excited to, keep up with your writing and learn more from you in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
It was. Thanks, Cara. Bye. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you got to learn something new along with us. If you liked what you heard today, I would love it if you left behind some kind words for us in a review on your podcast app of choice. You can also come and hang out with us online. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and Blue Sky. Links to everything will be in the episode description. You can also send me an email at ellen@justthezooofus.com if you have a cool animal you would like to hear us talk about on the show. We would like to thank Maximum Fun for having us on their network alongside their other amazing shows like the ones you heard promos for here today. You can go check those out and learn more about the network and how you can be a part of supporting our show over at MaximumFun.org. Finally, we would like to thank Louis Zong for our theme music. That's all for today. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.